Hello, this is Gail Mantic here on behalf of Wizard Wednesday and the Multimedia Magic Mages here for the Gray School, offering a couple things going around our little sphere of the world, and of course, giving you an opportunity to make some goals and be productive. So, Wizard Wednesday podcast for Wednesday, the 8th, November the 8th, 2017, at 12:05 p.m. So we're going to start at the top of the hour with a couple of announcements. We have our VGSW calendar of events that is accessible through a link, which will show you all the events on our Second Life campus. You can also see it at the foot of the Rose Castle. I'll provide a link to that at the end of the show. But our first announcement is, of course, a little bit sad, but very important to get the word out. News is, of course, that the Academy of Arcana, our physical campus, is closing. After about 2 years of trying to do this, it's just not making enough money to pay the bills and keep for the upkeep. So it looks like Headmaster Oberon is going to try to find a new home, and this plan is just not going thing. I'm not discouraged, though. I'm sure when it is time for the Gray School to have a physical place to put on events, to have a shop, anything like that, we will do it. So that's definitely coming, and that'll be great. So that's the first one. Second, of course, is a little bit more optimistic, a little brighter, a little happier. We have a new Wart Cunning class available. Wart Cunning being our class based around herbology. And of course, the first one we have, of course, is called Herb Crafting 501, Herbal Bitters. So I've never made bitters, but it certainly sounds exciting. I am a Wart Cunning major myself, so this is always exciting news. From here we have our another class which was revised, Natural Mysteries, that's out of the Office of Natural Philosophy. And furthermore, we also have Elemental Gardening, which talks about gardening with use of the elements. There's two classes, 401, Air and Fire, and 402, Water, Earth, and Spirit. That means it's a level 4 class. Let me just read the descriptions for you. It says, each plant has a magical resonance associating with a particular element. An elemental garden presents a collection of plants, all relating to the same element, along with decoration to support the theme. In this class, you will learn a lot about air gardens and fire gardens. And then the second class, of course, says, each plant has a magical resonance associating with a particular element. An elemental garden presents a collection of plants relating to the same element, along with the decorations to support the theme. In this class, you will learn about water, earth, and spirit gardens. So very fantastic, very exciting. You don't have to take the classes in any particular order, so if one speaks to you more than the other, go ahead and dive right in. Now, here's another one, another class. This one is also from Wart Cunning. This is just a good week to be a Wart Cunning student at the Gray School. So we have Wart Cunning classes available. Herb Crafting 301, Potions, Poultices, and Plasters. Now available and accepting students. So very exciting. I look very much forward to this. And last one is more broadly speaking than departmental news. It is, I've titled it Pagan History. And this was a post by student Woodchuck in the headmaster's office. And essentially it's saying Hey, I've been thinking for a long time that pagan, neo-pagan, nature-worshiping magical community needs to seriously address before it's too late. With any event in history, you see a lot of wars. The people who write the history of chronological events from very dry perspective of this happened or that, but neglect to document the effects and very personal experiences. Most happen. Okay. Anyway, the long and short of this is saying, hey, we have a lot of pagan elders. We have a lot of people who are in the magical community now, which is almost indistinguishable or intersects very much with the pagan community. You don't need to be a pagan to be an occultist or a magical person or wizard, but it's certainly the truth that pagan history is magic history, and so we definitely want to know what our elders have to say before it's too late. And for this reason, I really wanted to have this available to us. So basically, this is encouraging. Hey, talk to the elders of the community, get their stories, write it down, record their interviews, all that kind of stuff. It needs to happen, and I definitely agree with that assessment. A post I made, and I'm going to go ahead and read it here. It says, "Hey, I've been wanting to for a while to compile a comprehensive list of the headmaster's media appearances. This, in a way, is a natural extension of that thought. I think that a sense of history is important, especially what is called contemporary history, where there are threads of the past that are still within our grasp, but without direct action may slip between our fingers. Even for those who like the Grey School, Wizard for its distance from religion, pagan history is magical history. It is worth protecting." And I very much think that is the case. So with that in mind, I think this is something we got to think about. We should start making plans about, because time is definitely of the essence. So that's all I really have to say about that. So we're up to our links of the week. These are things that are specifically, they're not announcements, but I think they're important. I think they're fun conversations. They're worth drawing attention to. So if you're a student of the Grey School, you can actually see all of these on the forums. But we welcome everyone within the Grey School group here on Facebook to take a look. All right, so first up is a little bit of a personal one. But I'll share it nonetheless because it is relevant. And it was my own personal request for healing from to the Circle of Light and Love, which is a group based around, healing circles and that kind of stuff. Dealing with problems and community building. Well, my family is having an ongoing fight with mental illness. And I had a bit of a scare this last week, which is why I really requested help from a number of sources, and I also request here in the school. Just for a little bit of closure, so anyone who's been worried about this or heard about this and was thinking about it, it seems like we're actually in a pretty okay place. And that things have calmed down. So continue sending any good energies to us that you feel, you want to do. But the Mantic Hair clan is actually doing quite well. Thank you. After that, we have another one called The Great Pyramid Just Got Greater. So this is more of an archaeological based story. Very exciting if you're into world history. Very cool. So this was posted by Salient, level 6 WINS student, and it says, "Hey, I just read a story about a project of new technology called Mugraphy." I'm probably butchering that, but basically they found this like new X-ray technology essentially, and they found out that there are actually more hidden chambers within the Great Pyramid of Giza than we had even realized. So it's really, really significant. It's very significant in terms of the archaeology community. I know a lot of people who are really hardcore Egyptologists who would find this really exciting. In fact, my dad's among them, and I hadn't told him about this. He might find this interesting, so I'll be sure to tell him that when I get a chance. So there's that. Check it out. There's a YouTube link, video here, but I'm not going to share it at this time, but definitely look into it. Based on that information, I'm sure you'll be able to find it. All right, so next up, Storyteller Notebook. This is another one by Sayland, I believe. Yes, and it says, I started a course entitled Storytelling 401, Tales of the Fablists, almost 2 months ago, and is part of his performance magic minor. The first assignment is to share his Storyteller Notebook, better late than never. He says he found a perfect journal on Amazon, waited 4 weeks for it. It has an 8x10 soft cover lined journal with black glossy cover, front and back. Center of the cover has twin masks of comedy and tragedy, a fitting cover for the subject. Started to fill it with notes from a YouTube video about storytelling, as well as some genres he didn't know about. The journal will be primarily thoughts and reflections on stories and methods he finds useful and salient in his studies. Haha, I see what you did there. In magic, all other stories, videos, and pictures keep on the computer in a folder called Performance Magic, and various subfolders and all types. Any questions? So very nice. Unfortunately, he did not share a picture of it, which I would have loved. I have not seen it, but that's very exciting. I actually, the Performance Magic department is near and dear to my heart. I did theater, and I really enjoy. I've self-taught myself a little bit of puppetry. I've considered major or minoring in it a number of times, and I still might come back to it one day. Now, one thing I think is important to note right now, this is a little bit of an aside, but I wanted to share it, is that it is National Novel Writing Month. NaNoWriMo in November. All would-be novelists like to crank out a lot of words and try to write a novel in a certain amount of time. You could look it up and get the exact details. It's also relevant because our creative writing club, or which went away for a while, is actually very close to coming back. Which it's called Scribbling Quill. So you know, that would be a group of grade school students working together, talking about the writing process, all that fun stuff. It's actually a very complimentary club to our open mic night that we had. So I always feel like it's kind of a shame that they haven't been operational side by side and collaborating, because they're really two parts of a whole, creating and sharing works of art. So I'd really love to see how that unfolds in the future. Okay. Next up, we have job hunting for wizards. This is very much a relevant topic to me and others. And essentially, Student Woodchuck talks about putting Grayskull on his resumes and applying for jobs. I've heard a number of people talk about this sort of thing for a long time. And it's really kind of a common thing, at least for some people. Like if you're trying to do like an occultish job, if you're, doing tarot readings or, psychic phone lines or anything like that, people know about the Grayskull. Headmaster Oberon's name does carry some weight. He's a elder of the magical community, both pagan and sort of outside it. So it's it's kind of a big deal, and it's kind of cool that you can get recognized for being part of the Grayskull, and it's actually a relatively respected institution. That really makes me very happy to hear. I've never really applied for a job where I sensed that leaving Grayskull or putting Grayskull on my resume would help my chances. But should that ever be the case, I'd really like to do so. So I guess we'll see. Okay. After that, we have crafting. So this one, loading. Okay, so this is actually from the Fellowship of Magical Arts and Wizardly Crafts. That name is a mouthful. I really hate trying to say it out loud, but it is a arts and crafts club. They're about creating things with your hands, magical tools for certain, but also other things. I actually don't have a spot in my in our club breakdown at this point for this club because it doesn't meet on Second Life, and I've been a little bit neglecting of these clubs that operate mostly out of the forums, so that's something I want to rectify soon. This one is a pretty standard challenge. It's for 1 or 2 merits for your house or lodge. Please share what you're doing with us. Need not be finished. It should be far enough that we can see from your picture what you are doing. Awarding the second merit, it will be determined by the depth of your response. So, yeah, if you have a magical project, share what you've been doing. Share a picture. Talk about it. You can earn some merits for your lodge or house. That's pretty awesome. Okay. Now, this one I thought was a pretty great conversation. And this one is, do you take notes in your books? So that's to say, especially your magical books, because that's relevant to the school and our studies. But me personally, I got out of college just like this last year, and bought and rented a lot of textbooks, and there's always like little scribbles in the margins sometimes, not always, but sometimes. So you're like, is that something you do to help you study? Has reading this kind of stuff ever helped you? And, there of course, allusions to Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, where it was a rather major part of that book. So, it's not something I've actually done, mostly because sometimes if I get in too much of a hurry when I'm writing, even I can't read my writing sometimes if I'm too bad. I really should break out my calligraphy set and practice a little more. But I think this is writing stuff down as you study, really good practice. I try to do it even if I don't write in the book itself. But there's a lot of debate as to whether or not it's a good thing, and I'd really recommend you check it out if you have access to it. It's a really great conversation. And hey, you guys listening in now, talk about it in the comments if you want. I'd be interested to hear your responses. All right. So next up is dry readings versus participatory readings. So after that, loading in. Okay, so this one is something, and this is another one I posted, and I'm asking, hey, I read a lot of pagan, new age, occult, whatever you want to call these kinds of books, and I think that's very common for someone in a school of wizardry. You're always learning, and books are a great way to do it. But I often find myself doing dry readings of books. That means I will kind of read a book from cover to cover as quickly as possible. I'm kind of savoring the information, letting it settle, but not necessarily performing all of the activities as I go through it. And if I really like the book, I will go back to the front and start again. Because I will say, okay, this book has impressed me. I think this is something I can do. And the main reason I do this is because you can't always stop and do a meditation. When you read where and when you can. You flip open the book. You're in the doctor's office, or maybe you read a paragraph or two at lunch. That kind of thing. So in order to not have this kind of situation with these new age books, these occult books that have you, that you basically have to read them at home, study them at home, never leave, and always be ready to drop everything you're doing and do some kind of practice ritual on a moment's notice, I kind of do what I call these dry readings. And a lot of people have shared differences on what they think. On that kind of thing. And yes, So there's a lot to do with that. So dry. So I'd really love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments if you want to discuss that. But there's a lot of good arguments for why you might do and why you might not. So there you go. Okay. So after that, we have another one. This is by another student. I titled it Inciting Incident, but the actual thread is called Reasons for Magic Study. Very long thread. It's about like 7 paragraphs, so I'm not going to even attempt to read this. But the best summary is, hey, what made you start studying magic? This is kind of an origin story. This has not currently has any comments. It was posted on the 5th of November, so a couple of days ago now. But it's talking about, hey, where did it all come from? What made it so you had to start practicing magic? But there's definitely a lot of stuff like that. And I think everyone does have a story. I mean, me personally, I know I always had an interest in this kind of subject matter, but I also had kind of a odd situation because I have a family member who is very, very kind of traditionally, conservatively Christian, and doesn't tend to like that kind of stuff very often. But it's not necessarily like nobody else in my family is like that. It's just kind of her. It's her hang up. But she's also the person who usually took me to bookstores when I was growing up. So it was not. I couldn't really ask her to get me a book on astrology or God forbid, paganism when I was younger. So it was one of those things where I kind of took my cues from her, and I was like, okay, I'll not mess with this. But when I got older and I had more independence, had my own money, and then I started doing it on my own. That kind of thing. Anyway, that's fine though. So I by all means share your own stories in the comments if you care to do so. But of course, I know this can sometimes be a little bit long-winded. So but yeah, definitely share. And if you have access to the forum, share on the forums. I know the student seems to really want to hear people's stories, but hasn't gotten any yet. Okay, next one. I posted this, some pun fun. So this is going to make some people groan. So I do apologize for this. But here is my stupid joke. I believe I actually might have gotten this from Alexa, so I'll give her credit. But what do you call a short fortune teller on the run from the police? A small medium at large. But tish. Oh yes, that rim shot. Oh, I hope I did not cause anyone some pain. Oh, I actually think we might have lost a listener due to that. I think we were at 3 earlier. Now we're down to 2. I'm sorry. Oh well. Okay, next up we have challenges. This is there's a merit system within the school, and by participating in challenges, like getting 100% on a class, you can earn a merit for your lodge or house. And there's sort of a inter-school competition on either the youth or adult age group brackets, and you can kind of compare the lodges against each other. So that's kind of cool. I actually run a thread called the Merit Hunter, which is this thread that compiles ongoing challenges in an attempt to give an easy place for a lot of people to find and go on the forums. I'm actually thinking of revamping this system, partially because it's in a kind of obscure forum. I might make it part of Wizard Wednesday, and I might actually make it easier to use. Let me know what you guys think of that idea. I think it might be helpful. But yeah, there it is. Okay, couple of things I'd like to share. So ceremonial magic. This is a challenge put on by the Ceremonial Magic Department. So this one is titled November Ceremonial Magic Challenge. Yeah, a little on the nose. Anyway, this challenge says, hey, apprentices, magisters, and wonderful people of the Grey School of Wizardry. This is the Ceremonial Magic Department for November 2017. If you ever taken a class from the Ceremonial Magic Department, this challenge is for you. Okay, so very simply, it is a reviewing challenge. You take if you've taken a class in the Ceremonial Department at the Grey School, give a little review. Try to be detailed. You know, specifically, it says, hey, give a review of the class. Make sure you tell us the name of the class, its level, and leave a review on the class material. You're looking for thoughts and opinions on the class material's accuracy, readability, and applicability to your magical life. What do you think of the assignments? Would you recommend it to a friend? Okay, so really great chance to flex your reviewing muscles, look at them. We already got a couple of reviews, very exciting stuff. So definitely do that. I actually love these kinds of challenges where you review books or you review classes and you share them with the things. In a perfect world, I would love every department to have these kinds of challenges because they're just a lot of fun. So definitely take a look out on them and check them out on the forums and participate if you can. Okay, next up, Dark Arts. So this is a challenge through the Dark Arts department. Specifically, I think this one might actually be through the Dark Arts Club. The forum is called the Catacombs, but that's sort of the Dark Arts group. There's a discussion group on the on Second Life. I'll tell you more about that later in the meeting. But this is posted by Green Mage. It says, hi, you've been very quiet in the club lately. Is everyone just busy or has it gone in hiatus doing hands-on magic? I'm taking it easy on the magic side myself. There's so much to do in the mundane world. However, I'm putting the writing some ideas, and I'd like to put the term practical magic in the next few months. Okay, so it keeps going. But it's saying, hey, what do you plan to do some magic in the time of the future? Earn merits in your house or lodge. So here's one thing I wanted to point out, and I guess we gotta tell this to Green Mage. Maybe they don't realize this, because I know for a fact they live outside of the continental United States, and there's some time zone and technology issues, so they're not able to use Second Life. I think honestly the Dark Arts Club is very active. They're always talking. I hear the discussions are quite good. Dark Arts is not my favorite department within the school, so I don't visit as often as maybe I could, but I hear it's really a great club, and I've always learned something every time I go. So I think honestly the Dark Arts Club is doing fine. It's just they're not posting on the forums anymore. So that might be something to think about, because these sort of discussion group kind of clubs, there is always that risk that people who can only use the forums might not be in on all the conversations because they're all happening online. You know, this is part of the reasons why I am a huge advocate for posting detailed notes of club meetings after the fact, so people can feel like they're part of it and see what was discussed, what happened, see if they'd like to make a comment and continue the conversation. So that's just something to keep in mind. Forms matter too. I love that. Okay. Anyway, so with that, let's move on to performance magic. So this is an ongoing challenge. This is actually posted by Earthdrum, if you want a little bit of perspective. So a little bit on the old side, but that's okay. It's still ongoing. You could still earn merits on this. And it says, hey, please write a short paragraph or two describing your thoughts on whether or not actual molecular changing magic is ever used by street magicians, or on whether all street stage magic is built purely on misdirection. An example, when Chris Angel walks across a pool of water and contains swimmers who are all moving on around him, is he actually working a magical function of anti-gravity, or is he otherwise completing a masterful production of illusion? All your efforts could earn you 1 to 3 merits for your house or lodge. So really really cool topic. I think it's great. Like I said, I'm fond of performance magic, and I think performance magic if you want to look in a historical perspective, sleight of hand, conjuring, whatever you want to call it, has always been a component of working magic because it adds impact. Presentation is important. It's very important. So I don't encourage anyone within the school to neglect the importance of performance magic and to think that it is somehow contrary to the goals or objectives of the Gray School. Performance magic is magic as far as I'm concerned. There's no discussion to be had, and definitely respect it. Anyway, but with that going on, participate in the challenge if you want, earn some merits, and that's really all the ones I want to detail. The Merit Hunter thread has not been updated. It's actually one of my weekly goals, which are when I'm going to repeat this meeting online 5 p.m. tonight. So hopefully I think I can get it done between then and now. So I put it off. I'm coming close to the edge, but I'm not guilty of not finishing it yet. I have 4.5 hours. Anyway, that's it for challenges, though. So we're going. So we're going to go up to clubs and student organizations. All right. These are our clubs, and I'm going to bring as much attention to where they are, where you can have them, all that kind of stuff. And we'll try to tell you all the relevant information. So first up, Animal Friends Club, Sundays at 3 p.m. It is a club about, it's the Beast Mastery department, so it has to do with the, animal. Taking care of animals and pets and familiars and totems and all of those fun topics about furry and feathered and scaly critters. It's definitely a topic near and dear to my own heart because I ended up with a new pet. So very exciting. It's Sundays at 3 p.m. in the sort of barn area. If you have access to Second Life and maybe you don't know where that is, or you're not even on the campus, be sure to let us know. People will be more than happy to help you get there, or to any other club. Okay, next up, Order the Lodestone, Sundays at 4 p.m. This is a true study hall group. So by that I mean, this is a group where you meet up, you have a discussion, you say, this is what I'm doing, this is what I want to get done, and they say, okay, sit down, and turn off your mic and sit down and work. And if you have any questions, let us know. We'll try to, help you out. So a lot of times, this group, we do just kind of have discussions, but it's there as a block of time set away from everything else where you can sit down and do work. And I think that's really important. That is in the Stones Lodge, 4 p.m. Sundays. And when I say times, this is Pacific time or Gray School time. So if you're in another time zone, do the math. But 4 p.m. Pacific. Okay. Noble Mages Club, Sunday at 6 p.m. Normally, this is the time where I would put somebody on the spot and say they have to shill for their own club. But because I'm the only one on microphone, I'll go ahead and do it. Noble Mages Club is the premier wizardry club. Up to this point, the Gray School of Wizardry did not have a club about wizardry in specific. We talk about ethics. We talk about philosophy. We talk about all sorts of great and wonderful things. It is really an impressive club. The discussions are great. The people are great. I really think that you owe yourself to go at least once, and I honestly think if you do, you will be convinced. It's a great club. So with that in mind, we'll move on. But it's a wonderful club. Okay. After that, we have the Garden Club, which meet every other Monday at 4 p.m. At the sort of wort cutting area of the school. So this is kind of exactly the name on the tin material. It is a club. It is about gardening. You talk about, what are you planting? How are your plants doing? How do you mulch? All these kinds of things. Important stuff. Great stuff. It only meets every other week as opposed to every week, which sometimes makes me a sad panda, but that's okay. Still, very, very good club, and it's always very educational. Hermes Club, Mondays at 6 p.m. This is, and that's in the sort of ceremonial magic departments of the school. Okay, so ceremonial magic. It is not a subject I find easy to describe in a couple of sentences, but ceremonial magic, you're talking about formulaed rituals and lesser banishing ritual pentagram, all that fun stuff, all that exciting stuff. It's a lot of time these conversations go over my head. But I always do learn at least something new when I go there as well. A lot like the Dark Arts Club, a lot like Noble Mages. They are great discussions. They're very different discussions, but they are great discussions. So if this is something that you're really interested in, you can get a lot out of it. If it's something that you're completely new to, you can get a lot out of it as well. But don't be discouraged if you have to scratch your head a little on it. Okay, Divination Club, Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. I know that's a little bit of a weird time. That was mostly changed in order to correlate to a couple of in-world divination classes as well. If you did not know, if you're somebody who has not joined the school yet, but are very interested in doing, you should know we do have on-campus classes, and they are terrific. Having the opportunity to kind of have that classroom atmosphere, that where you have these discussions, it adds a new dimension to the classes, and it's something I encourage people to do if it's possible to do so. One important thread came out of the Divination Club this week, and I wanted to share it. And this one is Osmead VR meeting of Divination Club needs officers. So a bit of a mouthful, but the long and short of it is the Divination Club needs some new officers. They do not have a president or a vice president at this time. It's a great club. I've always liked going. I'm involved in too many clubs personally to do another one, nor am I actually all that proficient in divination, which is funny given my name, but all the same, I think it's if this is something you're interested in, I think this is something you should look into doing, because it's actually a really good club. They've gone over runes, and they've Ambika really knows her stuff when it comes to divination. It's just, yeah, I'm always really impressed. Okay. Wizard Wednesday. So this is a time for a little bit of shameless self-promotion. Wizard Wednesday is a club that tells you the ongoings at the Gray School, and we also and we usually have our meetings 5 p.m. in Second Lifetime in World at the very top of the Wizard's Keep, across from my room up there. So it's very easy to find. You just go to the little tavern and you just keep going upstairs until you run out of stairs. But and of course, Wizard Wednesday also does a number of other things. We talk about productivity. We try to have people set goals and accomplish them. We host discussions about productivity tools, productivity methods, the pitfalls of any given, trying to get stuff done, all that great stuff. And of course, we have this very first little podcast live stream, whatever you want to call it, and hopefully the first of many, We'll kind of talk about the nitty-gritty of this stuff a little bit later in the meeting, but yeah, that's us. So thank you so much for everyone who's listening to this live, and I hope many more listen to it after the fact. All right, so okay. After that, we have the Dark Arts Club Thursdays at 6 p.m. Again, this is mostly a discussion group. People get together, talk about dark arts, you know, and what that entails. Some people might not actually know what dark arts means, and they might be a little bit leery. They might not understand. Dark arts within the gray school context is, of course, defense against the dark arts. You know, the whole idea of shielding and protecting yourself from bad influences, both mundane and supernatural. But there's also the idea of sorcery or low magic. This is, so in a very short, you know, summation, it's practical magic. It's, you know, it's low magic. It's the opposite of ceremonial magic in a lot of ways. It's, you know, you use some simple associations. You try to do things for yourself in a very simple way. There's a lot of great utility to doing, you know, low magic. So, lot of great stuff in there. So there is certainly that. After that, we have Modern Magic Book Club is Friday at 6 p.m. They also meet in the Stones Lodge. This is a group that talks about modern magic, which is a fairly popular ceremonial magic text, and it's an analysis of this book. I joined this group kind of early on, and I was reading along, and I fell behind and kind of stopped going. So I'm very sorry for that. But when I was there, there was some pretty good discussions, and I think, and don't be afraid to go back if you want to. I'm sure they'll catch you up and let you talk about what you're doing, even if you're not keeping perfect track with everyone else. But and I really hope that this, you know, this practice continues on, and there's more of this sort of let's read the same book at the same time and discuss it kind of thing. I'd really love for that to be a ongoing thing within the school. Okay, open mic night Saturdays at 6 p.m. So this is within the Wizard's Keep. This was sort of your performance magic club. You could share poems and stories and stuff, but it's also kind of a general hangout time. There's sort of two clubs that combined, and one is the sort of performance magic oriented thing, and the other one is sort of a hangout. You know, we have a online barkeep, you know, who hangs out at our little tavern and welcomes guests and talks to people and all that fun stuff. So it's you know, it's a part of the social fabric of the school. It's important. It's good. It's wonderful. So keep that in mind. All right. After that, we have Gray Matters. Gray Matters is not a club in the traditional sense. It does not have meetings. It doesn't have a lot of discussions on the forums. It is our newspaper, essentially. And we've been doing I think there's been some pretty good job being done with it at this point in time. And it's always really interesting to read. I highly recommend checking it out. I think it's highly underrated. Now, for students of the Gray School who maybe haven't heard of it or haven't seen it lately or are confused about it, Frater Edzervio, who is our faculty member who works with it, he's always looking for people to freelance write for it, to add their own articles. So if you have something to say, if you have something to share, if you want to talk about seasonal stuff like that, definitely try to send something to him, because he's always excited for the opportunity to have more writers working on the paper. So even if you just want to submit one or two things, that's fine. Okay, with that, we're winding down. So I did want to go ahead and share a little bit of news about a couple of organizations that are not officially here yet, in terms of like oh, sorry. Okay. there's a couple of clubs that are not like officially here yet. You know, maybe they haven't been signed off yet, or maybe they just haven't been given the tools to start as a club yet. But there's a couple of clubs I want you to look out for. The first one, of course, I have a little bit of a bias towards, which is M3, the Multimedia Magic Mages, which is a club dedicated to multimedia and using it for the betterment of the Grey School, and of course, working on personal projects as well, just the general use of multimedia in Magic. This actual live stream is sort of a proof of concept of sorts for that, because we are showing how we can get information out to students, how we can facilitate discussions, and how we can use technology to better institutions within the school that already exist, such as Wizard Wednesday. So I hope this is going to continue long into the future, and if this is something you're interested in, definitely let us know. We're starting to make a lot of movement on that. Secondly is something I alluded to earlier, which was our our club, the Scribbling Quill, which is the creative writing club, and Captain Emeritus Otter Moonsong is going to work on that. And she really wants to bring it back. Yes, the faculty member of that group is very cool. Professor Nicholas Kingsley. Anyway, with that though, Scribbling Quill, very exciting. I was really hoping that there would be more movement on them before NaNoWriMo was here. But hey, there's always next year. All the same though, really, if you're a creative sort, there's a lot to unpack there. So be on the lookout. I'm really excited for it. All right, so those are the two sort of spectral clubs I wanted to share about. And with that, we're moving on to the discussion portion of our group. This is, of course, since I'm the only one with the microphone, this is going to be relatively short, but this is the part of our Wizard Wednesday meetings where we generally share discussions, and I'm going to be very curious to hear where this goes at the meeting at 5 p.m. Tonight. But this I wanted to make throw this out there, and you guys can hash out in the comments as we continue on. What do you think about the Wizard Wednesday podcast format? Do you think this is useful? Do you think this is helpful? Do you think the novelty is going to wear off? Do you think this is something you see moving forward? I really want to hear your opinions. Thank you. Oh, we have a Ryan Moore asking, how do I discuss? Well, if you are a student of the Grey School, you certainly can discuss via the forums. That's always a possibility. Now, since you're here, you can discuss as you have been. Post there. Go ahead and post, share comments here and talk about it. We see about Khalid Miari. I hope I didn't butcher that. Anyway, yes, he said, excellent. And he says, yes, it's very helpful and practical. Well, yeah. All right. So, yeah, have your discussions here, but it sounds like we're getting a bit of a positive reception. We're up to 5 viewers. Oh, hey, right on. That's not bad at all. Anyway, so I think there's a lot of possibility with this. So, Oh, my kitten just jumped off my bed. Excuse me. What are you doing? What are you doing, Cinnamon? Jeez. All right. Now that I got my cat off the floor, yeah, keep the discussion going. And with that, we'll go ahead and move on. But keep the discussion going if you want. Weekly progress report. So this is where we would have people talk about goals they set the previous week. and kind of give us a report. Now, this doesn't translate perfectly for a number of reasons. One, we didn't really take attendance. I don't really know who all is here and who isn't. And secondly, a fair number of people who are here are not able to participate at Wizard Wednesday under normal circumstances. Are not, maybe some of them aren't even part of the forums and part of the school right now, and they're more just part of the greater Gray School community. So I'm going to say, hey, if you have something to report, tell us about it. But otherwise, we're not going to dwell on this very long, because it's going to be a little bit hard to work out, at least in the present format. But I will tinker with it until we find something that works. Yes. Okay, so beyond that, we would have our monthly/weekly progress report. So this is where you would report on monthly goals and weekly goals. And right. We already talked about the weekly progress report. Monthly goals. So same difference. It's just monthly instead of weekly, right? After that, goals of the week. This is where you would set new goals, things that are SMART goals, things that you can get done between now and the following Wednesday, and that kind of stuff. So if you actually want to start setting goals and being part of this process, I highly recommend it. You don't have to share everything if you want to keep some of your goals a secret, and you don't have to feel pressured into it. That's not what we're here for. We're here to help with your achievement and your academic success, and also inform and entertain you. So with that, if anyone wants to set goals, I highly recommend it. Otherwise, I really hope we see you in the coming weeks, and I want to thank everyone here for participating in our first Wizard Wednesday podcast, name pending. But so yes, we're coming up to a bit of it. We managed to do this in an hour, so pretty good timing. Yes, SMART goal. Yeah, exactly, Khaled. The SMART goals. That's kind of what we aim to do here. Hopefully we'll be able to bring over some of these processes. I don't really, like I said, this is the first time I've ever done this, and I have to think about the ways in which this kind of format is different than the meetings in Second Life, and what that looks like, and what changes I can do to better suit this audience versus that audience, and all the rest. But thank you so much all for being here. I think we've done something really great here, and I hope that this continues for years to come. I guess we're just about ready to end this, so I'm going to click finish. So thank you, and you guys rock. Okay, have a good one.